Hello, everybody. Angela Merkel has introduced a catalog of 89 policies. This is the fourth and last video. It's a bit shorter than the previous ones. Today I talk about the Ministry of Education and also about a number of commissioners. Commissioners are people um, without a real duty. Usually they are just a lightning rod to divert the attention of some NGOs and stuff. So you have a commissioner for anti-Semitism and a commissioner for the new states, for everything where the grievance orchestra, in particular the media, has become noisy about. You have some person, usually a sinecure office, with few or no responsibilities. I think they should all be abolished, and now they are, of course, um, uh, soldiers in her fight, instruments she can use to wage her war against conservatives. Number 67 is supposed to be carried out by the Federal Minister or the Federal Ministry of Education, and it reads strengthening the research on right-wing extremism, racism, anti-Semitism, and other forms of group-oriented hostility towards human beings, in brackets, for example, anti-Gypsyism, improvement of the research data infrastructure, and a sustainable anchoring of the research field on universities, a systematizing of a historic and current and the current events with regards to the development of right-wing extremism and racism. And of course, they will not research. They will not look into the actual procedures and happenings that led to one another, what followed from what. That would be honest, and that would be something that I would support, but they are just looking for a repetition, more and more people repeating the same ideological talking points. So everything that's not socialism leads to fascism. You may have heard that a number of times because it's very popular. A lot of people on the hard left claim that whenever it's not socialism, then it will slip eventually into fascism. So you just have only two choices and so forth. And I think this is what they try to strengthen here. The following numbers, number 68 to number 73, is supposed to be carried out by the Federal Commissioner for Culture and Media. And until I read this paper, I did not know we had a federal commissioner for culture and media. And I think a state should not have that. I think the media should be independent of the state. But my government disagrees with me. So 68 says the creation and expansion of specific prevention projects of the historical and political, interreligious and intercultural education and information work in the BKM. I don't know what that is. Supported organizations and the project partners in as far, or in particular, the Spartan Museum. I don't know what a Spartan museum is. The theater, the music, the film, the libraries, the archives, the language, the literature, and the media for democracy, against right-wing extremism, anti-Semitism, racism, under the contribution or under the collaboration of the Commissioner of the Federal Government for Jewish Life in Germany, and against and for the fight against racism. Okay, that's a lot of gibberish, and I think also in German it's a dubious grammar. I think what that point stands for is they want to permit everything in cultural life, including the language, everything that's written, our history, the libraries, the archives, everything, the archives, think about it, the archives, everything has to be revised for this fight against racism. And number 69 is the creation and expansion of the monetary supply for things to do with Jewish culture. And the entire paragraph is such a grammatical nightmare that I just say, okay, this is about flushing some funds into the hands of some Jewish organizations, and I think this is to keep them quiet for some time. And number 70 is the expansion of the diversity strategy of the Commissioner of the Federal Government for Culture and Media, and the demographic and cultural diversity of our society should be shown on culture organizations, I suppose as theaters and arts and that kind of stuff, and to anchor it in the audience, the program, the personnel, the staff, and with the partners, to anchor the diversity and stuff in the audience of the theater and so on. Okay, and for that we have a commissioner. Okay, in other countries, arts are independent of the government. Okay, and number 71 is the cluster history. Number 1 is the creation and expansion of specific prevention programs in the supported or financially supported organizations and with project partners in history museums, in memorials and archive centers with regards to the National Socialist and also the communist East German history, for the history of democracy and the education about democracy. Number 2, the creation and expansion of specific projects for the history lesson, archive and dissemination of financially supported organizations, and with project partners on the topic colonial history, the effects of colonialism and racism, as well as the handling of the collective arts. I suppose that's the kind of stuff that you find in our museums, but were taken from other countries, like, you know, like some ancient Egypt stuff that you will find now in the Egypt Museum in Berlin or in London and so forth. And number 72 is Lighthouse Project, a new operative prevention initiative, a new thought initiative, cultural integration that is a broadly effective campaign, actions of solidarity and impulse initiatives for the initiative cultural integration, the focus fight against right-wing extremism, anti-Semitism, and racism, and that's going to be financially supported in order to become operatively effective in the broad societal consensus, and a network of state, that is the local communities, the federal government, and the individual states in brackets, and civil society and their roof organizations with the Central Council of the Jews in Germany. That entire sentence is a grammatic nightmare, so I hope you still get the idea. So there are a million words for initiative, and there are just so many different projects that are funded by this strange commissioner for culture and media, and they are just receiving more money, I suppose. And this is supposed to be creating a consensus, a broad societal consensus, as it says here. The next sentence is on the anniversary of, or the first year, after the first year of the attack in Halle on the 9th of October, this federal culture commissioner called for a cooperation between the German Culture Council. I didn't even know we had such a Soviet, a culture Soviet, a German culture Soviet, with the Central Council of the Jews in Germany and the Commissioner of the Federal Government for Jewish Life, who is, by the way, a Gentile as far as I know, in the fight against anti-Semitism and so on. And this is going to be prolonged. The call is being prolonged. I have absolutely no idea what they actually mean. Number 73 is strengthening the media competence, the media diversity, which is, I think, the last thing they actually want, and the media pluralism, which is different from diversity, as a core element of democracy. These are the people who usually want to shut down everybody, you know. The creation and expansion of prevention projects against hate speech, and propaganda, and a prevention on the web. So yes, they are for pluralism and so on, and also in the same sentence, which is also a grammatical nightmare, they want to shut you down. So 74 is the expansion of research in the field of victim experience of people with migration background. They don't use the word experience because they also mean the sons and daughters of people who came from certain places. And it's also from certain places. They don't really mean somebody who came from England, North America, Australia, and so on. They just mean Muslims, Mexicans, you know, people who are not white or who don't have a Jewish or a Christian religion. You know, the pet groups and their children. Those are the ones they have in mind. You can migrate as far as you want. You can travel from one country to the next, and you still won't have that strange migration background. The kind of people they want to protect are the staunch voters of leftist parties. Number 75 is a naturalisation initiative. There should be, they say, an advertisement for the possibilities of becoming a citizen in order to get the well-integrated foreigners who fulfill the legal requirements so that they can participate in our culture. So they want people who don't limit the power of the government, more of those, to get the voting rights, and then our elites are freer to do whatever the hell they want against the interest of the wider public. Number 76 is awkward German, so I'm not quite sure if I translate this correctly. The expansion of the Federal Integration Monitor. I don't know what exactly this Federal Integration Monitor monitors, but I'm also quite annoyed about all the surveillance and monitoring and so forth that our government is doing, apparently. And this is to be expanded for the numbers of victim consultation centers. I suppose that the victim consultation centers are supposed to protocol some numbers of how many people were spit on, how many people were offended, and so forth. And this is to be collected on a federal level, I suppose, on this Federal Integration Monitor thing. Number 77 is granting more help for the victims of racism and their social environment through the consultation centers against racism and their central hotline. And there is the second sentence means that there is a structure of consultations, the first access points, and also then something they call a redirection consultation, Verweisberatung. I assume this is usually when you have a specific problem and the person you talk to is not a specialist for it, and then he's sending you to somebody else. And the structure of the first access points and those specialists is to be improved across the federal state, the states, and the local communities. And with the existing civil society victim consultations, so that's just fancy schmancy for the NGOs. Together with the NGOs, they want to improve the network for low-level trigger support. So that's clumsy. For they want a lot of statistics, and they want to record every little whining. It's a low-level entrance. People should come to them, to mama, and call for all pseudo-racist experiences. Number 78, an integration council is to be started on the 1st of January 2021, and it is supposed to be an expert council with the title Integration and Diversity. Number 79 is the advancement of diversity guidelines, so a lot of virtue signaling is coming along. Number 80 is the initiative of dialogue between the federal government, the states, and civil society for intercultural diversity in the school curriculum, and diversity competence in the training for future teachers. So somehow civil society, that's again the NGOs, the churches, and so on, they are supposed to have a say of how future teachers are educated, who is picked as a school teacher, and also they are to write the Common Core teaching guidelines for the schools. Number 81, the projects for the empowerment of migration organizations in contact or in dealing with right-wing extremism and racism. Number 82, the regular high-ranking dialogue between the federal government, states, communities, and those NGOs, civil society, particularly the migration organizations. Number 83, the support of communal concepts and dialogues in dealing with diversity and hostility, as well as strengthening local political decision makers through projects of qualification with regards to dealing with right-wing extremism and racism. The numbers 84 to 87 are supposed to be carried out by the Federal Commissioner for Jewish Life in Germany. Number 84 is anti-Semitism social media campaign and interactive tools on the homepage of the Federal Commissioner for Jewish Life in Germany. 85 is a persistent financial support for the special week or action week against anti-Semitism. I don't know what that means. There's a week against anti-Semitism, and that is supposed to be consistently, permanently sponsored. That's a long week. Number 86 is the development of model projects for a common healing and history of racism and anti-Semitism, a common healing. Prevention and research. Number 87, the prevention and study projects with regards to right-wing extremism and anti-Semitism are supposed to be developed and advanced. the last two numbers are supposed to be carried out by the commissioner of the federal government for new states. That is the part of Germany that used to be under communist rule and joined in 1989. Or number 88. There is a reflection of history for the non-integration of contract workers and other migrants, as well as racism in the communist regime, and the lasting consequences under the contribution of the Federal Commissioner of Culture and Media. And number 89 is forecasting the racism and extremism with regards to the current societal developments, in brackets under the with the cooperation of the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. What shines through in the responsibilities of the Commissioner for the new states, the former East German dictatorship, is that there is a lot of condescension coming from our elites against the people living there, and I think this is mostly because they have abolished socialism on their own terms, and that is something our current government doesn't really like that much, and for that they emphasize how everybody there is supposedly a racist, a fascist, a homophobe, and so forth. This is emphasized a lot. Of course, they would not say everybody, because they have this speech code where you may never generalize over groups, but they would phrase it like, there is a lot of racism in the East, and there is a lot of homophobia in the East, and so on, which is not true. They really hate this area of our country. And this is why we have to problematize them, and we have to create this for history. Like the communist regime is already big into racism, and the experience with the immigrant workers from Vietnam is supposedly parlaying now into more of racism against now the Muslims and so on. So the narratives are just spun around the idea that this is a population that's the least likely to vote for certain parties, and therefore they are the most evil in the presentation of our media. That was it for today, and that was the end of that series. I hope you enjoyed it a bit. I didn't, because I have to live with it. And I see you soon. Bye.